All good music involves the building of tension. So we create tension and that leads up to a release. But creating tension in many of the traditional DAWs like Pro Tools and Logic and Cubase involves hand building stuff. Whereas within Ableton, we can use session clips to actually perform tension into the arrangement. So I have this same beat here from white to green. And in here, on each one, I'm using modulation. So modulation means to exert a modifying or controlling influence on something. So my monkey that is holding my ice cream cone while I take a piss is doing that. It can't be changed by modulation, but modulation can get in there and say, listen, little monkey, you have to jump up and down while you're holding that ice cream cone or else. Hey, you got to move to the other side, or you got to move from back, forth, from side to side. And so in that way, I can exert a controlling influence over the automation. All right, so I've performed this thing. And what I have here is I've got my session global quantize set to half so that I can get a lot more tension into it. And all this tension is generated from just one clip. All right, probably not your style of music. That's why I sit in obscurity. But what's going on here? This first clip has just a little bit of volume automation on it, and I can undo that and take a listen. So all my examples are derived from this clip. That's my original one. Here's with the volume automation drawn in. Okay, this one has a couple of, well, let's just look at it. It's got transposition on it. And let's just do a little transposition ourselves. I've got the draw tool. I'm going to slip my grid out to 1/8 notes. And you can get in here and waste so much time, and it's so cool. Okay, and all those pitch changes are dependent on these algorithms here. So if I go to texture, complex, and pro, okay, they're basically all the same with the exception of repitch, which doesn't respond to transposition at all. So, Bill, can we put curves into these lines? And the answer would be yes. I take my draw tool off with the B key and just delete a couple of these dolios and option drag, create some curves. You can just spend so much time down in here, but you should experiment with everything. Keep experimenting. Right here, I can get a gated sound. So what is going on in here? Basically, these files are cut into little bits. And this is basically the way it stretches. This says go to a point and stop. This says go to a point and stop and go back again. This says go to the point, reverse, and go back again. Okay, so the best way to understand what it's doing is just to play around with it and listen to it. Oh boy, here comes the fun part right here. We have Sample offset modulation. This is a classic example of engineering, people naming stuff. It just should be called beat juggler. It's what it does. It is so cool down here. Basically, the height of these stalks represents a position of the sample in a loop. So if I move it, I can get it to change positions and access different parts of the loop itself. Get this volume squared here. Take this up. Okay, and basically endless amounts of variation with just 2 bars right here. Oh my gosh, really? Try doing that in Pro Tools or Logic. It's not going to happen, man. All right, with all these parameters, forget thou noticed that you can put curves onto them. So take your draw mode off, delete a couple of nodes, and option drag the lines. And you can just get all jacked up down in here in a good sort of a way. So that one's out enough to where I need a beat to make it hang. Okay, and in context, it sounds pretty awesome. So here I am going progressively down the line and creating new clips based on the same old one, and they all fit with that beat, and they all get progressively more tense. Flux and grain size. I'm not a big fan of these, but under the tones and textures menu, you're going to have parameters in here. And the best way to understand it is just to hear it. So I've got a dry clip here, just a dry vocal.
Intensify the treatment. I want to fit the rhythm of the sound and vision to the pattern of his brainwaves.
And then one with grain size and flux.
Intensify the treatment. I want to fit the rhythm of the sound and vision to the pattern of his brainwaves. I think it will make for a much deeper response.
So you can kind of see how very cool that could be. So here I've done it. I've created variation and tension in my arrangement using session clips. Can't get that anywhere else.